Good evening. It's now 4:30 and I would like to call the open board meeting of Tuesday, November 5th, 2024 to order. Aisqueal Natsea, Aishqualan Quanasium Nala. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the lands of the Halkidimi speaking people, specifically the Quonset Village. The Board of Education is honored to be able to collaboratively walk beside the Quetzin, Malahat, Subasset, Halalt, Penelakut, Skinanus, and the Axan peoples who have cared for this land for thousands of years. May we walk gently on the ceded and unceded territories of their lands as we work together to lift up all the Ha'ats'unem. It is unusual for the Secretary Treasurer to open the meeting. Tonight is what we consider to be the inaugural meeting of the board. Every year, there's an election for chair and vice chair. It has reset, and that will be conducted a little bit later on in the agenda. And then I will pass the seat to the board chair. So I'd like to begin with the adoption of the agenda, that the Board of Education of School District 79 adopts the agenda of the November 5th, 2024 open board meeting. Moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee Smith. All those in favor? Approval of the consent agenda, that the Board of Education of School District number 79, Cowichan Valley, approves the consent agenda items of the open board meeting of November 5th, 2024 as presented. Moved by Trustee Lise, seconded by Trustee Souza. All those in favor? Minutes of the October 1st, 2024 open board meeting, that the Board of Education of School District 79, Cowichan Valley, adopts the minutes of the October 1st, 2024 open board meeting. Moved by Trustee Doman, seconded by Trustee Croft. All those in favor? And finally, minutes of the October 8th, 2024 special open board meeting, that the Board of Education of School District 79, Cowichan Valley, adopts the minutes of the October 8th, 2024 special open board meeting. Moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Souza. Trustee Souza, all those in favor? Thank you. We're now moving on to the action item of the election of the board chair. And prior for calling for nominations, I am appointing Darlene Reynolds and Claudia McMahon as our scrutineers in the event that a vote becomes necessary. So if there is a vote, there will be ballots distributed. They will take them from you and take them from the room and report back on the findings. So nominations are now in order for the position of chair of the board. And so from the floor, Trustee Thorne.
I recommend Trustee Croft.
Vice chair.
Vice chair.
Vice chair or chair?
Vice.
So this is for chair.
Oh, Kathy. I'm old.
Trustee Smith, do you accept the nomination?
I did, thank you.
Thank you. Calling from the floor a second time for nominations for the position of chair. And for a third time, calling from the floor nominations for the position of chair. Hearing no further nominations, Trustee Smith has been appointed as chair of the board for the following year. Congratulations. She'll now take over the meeting for the call for the vice chair.
I'll now call for nominations to the floor for the position of vice chair, please. Trustee Thorne.
Now I can say Trustee Croft.
Trustee Croft, do you accept the nomination?
I do, thank you.
I'll call for nominations to the floor again for vice chair for the second time. Third and final time. Hearing none, Trustee Croft, congratulations on the role of vice chair.
Thank you.
Right. No destruction of the ballots. So recognitions and delegations. So tonight we're recognizing the CM recognition program winners. So tonight the Board of Education would like to acknowledge Tina Stanyard, Becky Greenhow, Angela Campbell, Bruce Lander, and Casey Parsons, who are the winners of their inaugural Cowichan Valley School District CM a recognition program established to celebrate and honor the important work within our school communities by staff and all who make a difference in our organization. CM which means people who make things right in Hulkaminam, recognizes those who go above and beyond. In May, the school district launched its Shiam Tai recognition program. Colleagues and supervisors submitted nominations to recognize exceptional work being done throughout the district in 4 separate categories: learning, Indigenous ways of knowing, culture of care, and future focus system. Tonight, we are pleased to acknowledge these category winners for all your hard work and all that you do in the district and your positive impact on students and community. So I would like to acknowledge Angela Campbell and Becky Greenhow, and they are both being recognized for Indigenous Ways of Knowing category. And they're both teachers at Crofton Elementary School. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
Thanks to everybody.
Permission to leave now.
And I would also like to acknowledge Bruce Lander. Bruce is from Culture of Care category, and Bruce is from our transportation department. Love recognitions. I have one other recognition that's not on the agenda this evening. I'd like to recognize the superintendent of schools, Robin Gray. Sorry. Trustees got together via social media and we decided that we weren't going to let you out of this meeting without acknowledging you and the work you do. So Robin, thank you for walking beside us and with us. Thank you from the trustees that had to go through COVID. Thank you for guiding them and helping them get through difficult times. Thank you from this current board for the difficult times when we first came in and guiding us through some really tough situations. Thank you for your work and your partnership on the new school and going through some difficult meetings with me and Alan from Urban One. You're appreciated. Thank you from 2 different boards regarding 2 different strat plans. Thank you for giving us an amazing senior team. We're in good hands when you go. And thank you for always staying focused on the kids first and the adults second. So we do wish you well, even though I have said some nice things about your departure, but the board wanted to give you a little something to say that we will miss you, but we wish you well on your new adventure to the Nanaimo Ladysmith School District.
Well, thank you very much. And I have to say that I've had the most enjoyable time being a leader of Cowichan Valley School District. And I want to make one statement if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I speak with my significant other and I have people give me well wishes from the other school districts say welcome home, I'm a little slightly annoyed by that because I feel like I am home when I'm in Cowichan Valley. So thank you very much.
Well, then your present will bring you home. Well done, trustees. All right, moving on. Report of the closed meeting, Mr. Sandquist.
Thank you. The board met in closed session just prior to the open and concluded their business. There was staffing update, bargaining information, contract matters, and appointment of interim superintendent. And there'll be more on that later in the agenda.
Thank you very much. Action list. Yeah, I just had to do mine too.
We have one item that's still in progress, and it will be an update to the AP around community contributions and donations. It's due back at the end of the year, and progress is slow.
Any questions for Mr. Sandquist before we move on? Hearing none. Superintendent of Schools for the final time, Robin.
All right, thank you very much. An update on principal and vice principal. On October 15th, there were a number of changes with regard to some movement. Jennifer Merritt has been appointed principal of Crofton Elementary. Scott Jackson has been appointed co-principal of Cowichan Secondary, soon to be Cowichan Secondary. Callie Bridge has been appointed acting principal of Bench Elementary. And Stephen, new to the vice principal pool, has been appointed temporary vice principal of Bench Elementary. This is an update for members around the table with regard to those changes that occurred on October the 15th. If I can, if there aren't any questions, I'd like to move on to board information 11.2.1, integrated child and youth team update. I want to provide a bit of an overview brochure of what the integrated child and youth teams are once again. I think sometimes when we have new initiatives that are brought forward, which is a great opportunity to support the learners of this community, we sometimes go fast and furious, and I think it's important to always remember what we do with regard to this. And it's a beautiful partnership that we have with Island Health and many other support organizations across the valley here. So teams are part of a Pathway to Hope, the provincial strategy for improved mental health and substance use in British Columbia. So the update would be that we have hired, the team has hired, the partners have hired Pauline Davis. She will be the team lead and has been hired by Island Health with a lot of our input, and namely the work, I think, from the Assistant Superintendent's office with regard to that. She started in the position on October the 20th. She has been toured around where the team will be located, and that will be a location at the Grove. So we have some office space there that we will be putting in the team. Clinical counselor positions have been posted and closed, and we are in the process of shortlisting those candidates. So Pauline will be the team lead with the clinical counselors there. The next steps will be to hire the clinical counselors and begin the process of hiring the peer child youth support positions. And Colleen will finish her own onboarding, including becoming familiar with the referral process and connect with mental health witness for children, youth, and families. So we're really excited to have this great support for our youth and our families with regards to mental health and youth initiatives.
Any questions, trustees? Trustee Sousa?
Yeah, thank you for the information. Just on page 2 of the handout. So 7 more communities will have ICY teams in 2023. So are those in place, or because that's 2023?
Yes. I'm not certain about that.
Oh,
I'm not certain if they're in place at this point in time.
okay.
Okay.
So
Are going to be.
in 20, okay.
2023 was last year.
So, yeah,
So are they in place?
yeah, that's what.
They're getting in place right now. We're one of them. And I think that what happened was we were kind of a bit of an offshoot, I believe. So these are in place and we are also one of them. But we don't know where they are in their process. Okay. But thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you. Moving on. Yeah. All right, I might need some help from, oh, he's already ready to go, our Secretary Treasurer. So we have been working very closely with Island Health on our Neighborhood Learning Center, and we now are putting together in place a youth health center. And so Island Health has worked very, very closely with elders from Cowichan Tribes with regarding to naming the space. So in the Cowichan Secondary School, we are having a new center called Cowichan Manam. Another part of the word I can't say, but what it means is building where Cowichan youth are being healthy. So Jason Sandquist is prepared to play the name of the Youth Health Center, and we're working in partnership with Island Health. So do you want to play the name?
Yeah, I have not tested this over Zoom. So
Okay.
maybe that my volume just gets turned up full blast on my laptop, but we'll just try here.
Oh, it's on him. Site yet out.
Do it one more time, just a second.
Site yet out.
Thank you.
Oh, it's in
So I think for the most part, all of us can do very well, and we'll have to practice and learn with regard to the second half of the name, building where couch and youth are being healthy. So really, really impressed with Island and the work that they did with regard to naming the center. And so we, as a school district, met with Island Health representatives on October the 29th regarding the neighborhood learning center space for a youth health center. They've confirmed the name, which means building where couch youth is being healthy. Island Health has hired Rhonda Wiley, the on-site clinical lead, to support the day-to-day operations of the youth health center. So she will get started there in January when we get the center up and running. Nina Knock, the clinical coordinator at Margaret Moss Clinic, will be providing support to the on-site clinical lead. So it's really moving along with regard to hiring the staff there. We are currently finalizing the partnership agreement between the school district and Island Health, and Island Health will be sending an update to the community partners group with a later invite to a center, which is probably in the new year. So during the conversation that we had with Island Health, they would like us to get moved in first, and then as we get settled, then they can start moving in afterwards and start providing those services. So it's been a long process. I think probably about 4 years that we've been working on this, and what a great partnership it is, and what a great service it's going to provide for the youth here in the Cowichan Valley. Any questions? No. All right, moving on. I only have a couple of photos, and so we'll just wait till we get there. Mr. Thanquist. So firstly, I just want to acknowledge the Transportation Department. On October 30th, the Transportation Department held a bus evacuation many drills on the afternoon runs. I want to thank the drivers and the department for organizing these events. It just helps with safety and teaches our young children what to do when the buses might need those drills. And so really a great shout out to the transportation. School Remembrance Day assemblies. Many of the schools will be getting ready and organized for those assemblies. And so in the information package on page 36, you will see that there are a number of assemblies going on with the dates and the time. And if any of the trustees are interested in attending, please contact the school principal. They'll find you an appropriate seat, and they'll make sure that you are held in a dignitary fashion when you go in terms of finding a spot for you. I do also want to make comment that on November the 8th is National Indigenous Veterans Day as well. And so certainly acknowledging the contributions of our Indigenous people who actually served and contributed as well. So just taking note of that.
Thank you.
Cowichan Secondary replacement update. The board chair and myself had a great opportunity last week to tour the school, and we're referring to the unfinished parts of the school. And so we were impressed with the progress, and I'm so looking forward to seeing when people are able to go in there and see the smiles on their faces and the learning communities that are pretty extraordinary. And also, I believe the Indigenous Language and Culture Center, which is called the Sominus House, is really coming along, and it's quite incredible. And I think that my expectations were certainly met, and were even beyond meeting when I walked around the room to see the walls and the posts and the floor. It's just pretty amazing. So it's going to be extraordinary when all of us are able to get there and bring in family, community, and students with regard to the new builds. So if you have a chance, you can take a look soon on the other side. I find that when you go by the highway, you can only see one side, but if you go in a little bit, you can see a little bit more. And so I think that when I look at the building, it really looks quite, just kind of ordinary, kind of that ordinary look of a big house, and that was the intention. But when you get inside the building, it has a very different, certainly look to it with regard to learning communities and the extraordinary, just so many pieces to it. Can't wait till it gets opened. Moving on, Squamish School, we have a couple photos. And so here you're going to see, this is Truth and Reconciliation Day, and it was a visit to Yayamnuts. And so They had a great start to the day. And then later on, they went to the sacred ancestral place of the Cowichan people, which is a special opportunity to learn more about the history and the importance of this place. And for those of you who have been there, it really is extraordinary, and it certainly makes you quiet when you go there. And it's really not that far of a bit of a walk. So great that the Plumpton students got to go there. Just want to share, I attended the Vista Fall meeting on October the 4th with the trustees who were in attendance at Port Alberni. Great opportunity to learn more about what they do in their school district. Also, I may comment that we were coming up to the Great BC Shakeout before we had our meeting in October. And so many of us participated that across the district. And so on October the 17th at 10:17 a.m., even the school board office, we were all underneath our desks and meeting outside to do roll call in terms of the emergency drop. Provincial assessments, grade 10 and 12, they wrote their literacy and numeracy assessments. These have started to occur on October the 28th and will go and be open till November the 5th. It's not that like back in the day where we brought them all back into the gym and they wrote it. They actually have a window of time where they actually write it online now. So all of the students will be going through that in grade 10 and 12. And then also the foundational skills assessment for students in grades 4 and 7. We will be completing those assessments on November the 8th. And so I know that's a lot of work for all the schools to be doing, namely the principals and the vice principals who help to support that work, and then actually the teachers initiating it as well. So all that's occurring right now. I had the great opportunity to go to the BC School Superintendents Association meeting that happened last week in Victoria. And we also have another conference coming up on November the 14th and 15th, which is on stewardship for identity and belonging. And so that is coming up next week. On November the 22nd, we have a non-instructional day here in the school district, and the theme will be mental health. And I know that we have a whole group of people working on endeavor that's coming up on the 22nd of November. This month is Adoption and Permanency Awareness Month. It's recognized as such by British Columbia. The province is celebrating the families that give children and youth love and support as permanent members of their family. And November is also recognizing that there are children and youth who need a permanent home to call their own, with caring adults who will nurture and support them and champion their success. So that's the month of November, and we usually honor them at this time. I've had a number of school visits. I had the great fortune of going out to Paulson this morning, as well as Lake Cowichan School, and to visit there. I've also been to École-Montprevost. I went out to Coheman about a week ago, and I had a great opportunity to go visit CBOP as well. So those were my school visits and my check-ins over the last month. And that is my brief, short report this month.
Thank you very much. Secretary Treasurer. Thank you. I'll refer to the board chair on 12.1.1.
Absolutely. For information, the board has appointed Assistant Superintendent Jeff Rowan to be our intern superintendent until the board successfully hires our next superintendent. So congratulations to Mr. Rowan and welcome.
Moving on now to budget update. I'm going to put this up on the screen. That's going to be hard to see. Full screen for me. We've been talking about the enrollment drop that was unexpected this year and some of the financial implications of that. There is a funding model that the Ministry of Education uses to distribute the funding to school districts. And I have two columns here. We're looking at where we think the funding is going to be based on the numbers that were in the 1701. So essentially dropping almost 210 students overall from what we thought we were going to have, and 140 students from last year's number, and comparing that to what we had in March and compared to what we think we have in October. So overall, we're projecting a drop of $1,006,704. I would like to draw your attention to this particular line here, and it's called salary differential. It should be highlighted. Well, it's not quite fully highlighted. That line item provides school districts with supplemental funding if our average teacher salary is greater than the minimum in the province. So this the lowest in the province. So there's a baseline school district that has the lowest average teacher salary, and it's probably Northern, where there would be newer teachers typically. And it's to create fairness and to ensure that there isn't a disincentive to hire somebody with a master's over somebody new, because you're going to save money. It has a number of reasons. That number, I think, although we can't project it here now, I think it's going to change a lot for the school district. I'm going to get to that in a minute. We have not just the drop in enrollment, but we have another pressure that was unanticipated that has appeared in this budget analysis. So I'm going to come back to that. So salary differential is based on the average teacher salary. We budgeted for 3% increase, which is in line with the increase that the wages were, like the collective agreement settlement. It's coming closer to 5%. And there's a couple of factors there. Well, a number of factors. Did we have the number of retirements that we typically have? And I think the answer is no. And so there's a differential between a new teacher and a more experienced teacher. And if you have, say, a differential of $30,000 per retiree goes out and a new teacher comes in, typically if you have 20, 25 retirees, that's a lot of money. And I don't think we had it. I think, our salaries have gotten to the place where that top 5 is now really substantial after 4%, 6.75%, and 3% that, maybe I think we have more staff hanging on. And then, of course, the economy and cost of living and all those other factors. So, we've seen that shift, and it may appear in that salary differential line. That's why I'm highlighting this. And I think another component, too, is the number of teachers that have been successful in their accreditation or their education. So there's different steps for masters, and what they call 5+, you're partway to your masters. And we're seeing some really successful completions, which is great, education achievement for staff. And it just sort of compounds into, we have a much higher cost this year than we anticipated. So moving right along, always the bearer of good news when it comes to budget. We take a look at comparing our what we thought we were going to have to what we have, just to try to see where I think we're going to land. We did a little bit better around our cost of living. About $50,000 came in under the COLA, and so that was to pay for the 3% wage increase over what I had estimated. And I think right now our ISP numbers are coming in a bit higher than what we also had budgeted. So overall, I think we're looking at dropping about $859,000 in revenue. Going right along. Some of that has been mitigated by fewer teachers in what we could recover for teacher staffing in the classroom. When you drop 210 students, some of those, we do have some reduction in teachers' numbers, but we also had some that wasn't able to be recovered at all because it happened so late that we realized that we were well on our way when we realized our numbers had dropped. And especially at the secondary level, the elementary is pretty aligned and exactly as it should be, but secondary, we weren't able to get every block back because they've been timetabled and kids have been enrolled, and there's costs related there. So we find ourselves, with the combination of drop in enrollment, not able to recover all the staff, increase in average teacher salaries. You happen to go into our surplus right now about 1.3 million more than we were. And luckily, it was a higher year in the last year end, but it's not a great story to tell. But I don't think anybody projected that we wouldn't have the in-migration to our community that we've typically seen, and would actually see an enrollment drop. I know our neighbors to the north have said they have Nanaimo about 264 increase over last year, Soup's 500 over last year, and we're 140 down. So something unique is happening here that we have to pay attention to. So looking then at the surplus, we finished the year with an unrestricted surplus of 4.3, almost 4.4 million. If we draw 1.3, although I think that may go down based on our funding on the average teacher salary, because I double checked payroll's numbers and they submitted the 5% increase for that salary differential. Leaves with 3,075,000 in surplus, or approximately 2.73% of budget. Now the board does target 1 to 3%, but it was a good news story at year end that we were closer to 4. And that's it. So that's the updated budget. We're working on some strategies to mitigate that 1.3 draw, and we'll try to bring that back in November, but it doesn't get finalized until February. But there are some things, there are some options. Some one-time or some line items that aren't contractual, that aren't staffing, that we can look into.
Trustees, questions from Mr. Rehnquist?
As I understand it, we sometimes anticipate the number of folks who are going to retire. And then, of course, their positions are taken up with folks who are new to the game and in lower wages. So it just occurred to me that it's sort of hard to predict that, and that sooner or later we're going to run out of retiring baby boomers. Like that number has to sort of gradually, you know what I'm trying to. So my question is, can we, without messing with anyone's privacy, can we figure out how old our employees are and use that to help predict when they retire and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we can run from our human resource software. We can do retirement projections, and we could say, tell us every staff member who is 61 years of age or older, or 65 years of age or older, or whatever. But the retirement bar is changing.
Yeah.
Hard to know what line you would draw. I wouldn't guarantee that somebody was going to retire. But we do know that we do have a large percent of our staffing throughout all work groups. That is, it's in the bubble of what could be considered a retirement year. But it's probably been attractive not to, given the salary increases and the fact they have a major impact on pension. When you think of the top 5 years that end up being rolled into a pension calculation. Yeah, it's unprecedented. But when was the last time there was 4, 6.75, and 3% wage increases? I can't, in the last 2 decades, think of a time we've seen that.
Trustee Thorne?
Over the last couple of years with inflation and things like that, we all knew that the budget was going to get tough. And it just means that we're going to have to get together and tighten our belts and look at our part, really prioritize what we're going to be looking at. This is no surprise. We knew it was coming.
So when you say percentage of operating budget, 2.73%, is that what's left in surplus after we take out the 1.3?
It is, correct.
So we're still within 1/4% of our required 3% surplus.
Yes, but balanced on 2.5 plus 1.3, 3.8 million used to balance from your surplus. So some of that will come back because the staffing that we weren't able to get back, we can get back next year. It won't be part of we're not looking exactly for 3.8 million, but it will be a large number that we'll be making up next year.
So most of our surplus that we have left will be what we use to balance the budget next year, or this year, I guess. Trustee Dillman.
Just like to thank Mr. Sandquist and his team for staying so well on top of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Dillman, for that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Seeing none? Mr. Sandquist, where we are?
We do have sign-in authority now. Now the main sign-in authority, there's an opportunity now to do a second sign-in authority. The one that was here was if the chair or vice chair had changed. But what we do have as an upcoming change is an interim superintendent. So if I could actually recommend a different motion here, because the sign-in authority that we currently have remains intact with Robin Gray, Jason Sandquist, one up, or Kathy Schmidt, Elizabeth Croft, one up. But as of November 18th, we need another sign-in authority, and this is an opportunity to put that motion forward.
Please.
So I will read it. that the Board of Education of School District Number 79, Cowichan Valley, authorizes the transfer assignment authority to Kathy Schmidt, Board Chair, or Elizabeth Croft, Vice Chair, and one of Jeff Rowan, Interim Superintendent, or Jason Sanquist, Secretary Treasurer, effective November 18th, 2020.
Moved by trustee Sousa, seconded by trustee Thorne. Any questions? All those in favor? Thank you, trustees. All right, upcoming meetings and events. Everybody take a boo. Trustee Lisa, there's your answer for your DSAT meeting.
Yes, and if I may, Chair, trustee Strachan is going to take the lake action for me on that really busy day, and then we will trade for the next one. So trustee Strachan, if you can let me know when your date is, I will do the trade.
Anything else there, trustees? Nothing missing? School Remembrance Day assemblies, just a reminder that trustee Croft will be out at Shanice. Trustee Strachan will be in Lake Cowichan. I will be at the Dunkins. Trustee Sousa?
Like to join you that morning, if I may.
Absolutely, you may. Committees and outside organizations. We have a motion here that the Board of Education, School District 79, Cowichan Valley, adopts the revised policy 8 for committee as amended. With the trustee Doman, seconded by trustee Sousa, and this is the committee makeup change from our climate action so that we're no longer limited to who we have in the room. So all those in favor? Thank you very much. Trustee Croft, Provincial Council.
Yes. I'm just going to pull up the correct document here. So the Provincial Council was October 24th and 25th in Vancouver at the Vancouver WASC Center. And wow, do they have a nice meeting room. It's all round. Everybody has their own mic and their own plug-in, a big screen, and it's pretty fancy. So we feel very, very she. So some of the highlights are Carolyn Brody, our current president, will not be running again in the next election. And so she's retiring as current president. CEO Suzanne Hoffman, so that's a staffing position at DCSTA, is also retiring. And the new CEO is Trevor Davies. And there's lots of information about Trevor online. He seems a very nice bloke. He opened the doors for lots of ladies. So that went over very well. They presented the budget as a preview for the Provincial Council delegates, and it will be, there may be some adjustments, but in essence, it's for us to sort of preview, and then it goes to the our meeting for approval by the full membership. We receive an awful lot of minutes of an awful lot of meetings, so there's a fair amount of housekeeping stuff, but I wanted to draw your attention to a couple of reports and presentations. One was from the Infrastructure Committee, and they've done a lot of really good research, which I'm sure you would think matches our own experience of our infrastructure challenges. And basically, it's the aging infrastructure that everybody is dealing with all across the province, and this requirement that you have the students overflowing into portables and so on before you can build a school. So they're advocating to change that as a requirement to request a new school. They also pointed out something interesting, and that is that when you put in a the cost is about $60,000 per seat. And province-wide, they figure the cost of a portable is about 1.4 million, which is not too far off our own, right? And whereas if you go and do a new build, the cost is about $100,000 per seat. The portable is short-term, and a new build is for decades. So they're kind of making the argument that it's better to spend the money now than spend twice as much later. So they had a lot of really good points. They did a survey of the infrastructure needs around the province and figures that it comes in at about a cost of $9 billion if we were all to get what's on the things that we need. The Climate Action Committee issued a report on how education can minimize their carbon footprint and influence our drive towards climate action. Cowichan suggested adding a consideration on increasing sequestration across the thousands of acres that districts own, and that would be a really great provincial project for us. Because Canada, I believe, and Trustee D'Souza may be able to help me here, we sequester around 25%. We're the big carbon sink for the world, so let's work with that. So that was pretty well received, so we'll see. There was a really interesting report on how and if students can participate in the annual general meeting at BCSDA so that there is a student voice at a provincial level. This was very preliminary. It was more a set of considerations that people have to think about. And it's a long way from any policy or action yet, but that kind of thinking was very well received by the membership, by the provincial councillors. What we discovered, though, is that districts like ours that have a formalized student voice and processes for student voice are in fact quite rare.
Right.
So to then sort of try and create a system or a model that works for all 60 districts when in fact very few even have it locally, we're a long way from that. So, and the other thing that the committee did, their hearts are in the right place, but they did all this research, but nobody asked any students what they'd like to do at the provincial level. So, but that's exactly what this conversation is for, is to take this information back so that the committee and BCSTA can perhaps move forward. I'm sorry if that felt a little long, but those seem to be the things that resonated and I felt in particular applied to our district. And I felt that we were able to make some interesting connections and some comments and to share and learn.
And all those presentations can be found in the portal.
They're all on the portal. Yeah.
We have them there. And Trustee Cruft, just in my last board chair call, again, with the students, they almost seem to be afraid. They're not quite sure what to do with them. And so I too have talked about, well, DSAC's pretty easy. And so I'm almost wondering if maybe at some point we just bring our DSAC kids over to BCSTA and show them exactly what it is. So
If I may, well, I already said I will, but anyhow, the Sunshine Coast, they have a student trustee. They've had a student trustee forever. They come to all the conferences. Say it's a parent comes, so all that whole supervisory thing is just managed. And they've been doing it for years, and they're like, what is the big deal? But there are, certainly for the more remote locations, adding one person to get them all the way from the northernmost part of BC to Vancouver is a very big deal. So there are challenges. There are challenges. One of the suggestions I'm going to bring forward when we're looking at motions for the AGM is that we consider a motion to direct BCSTA to look at advocating to make DSAC, to include DSAC in the School Act in the same way that we include DPAC. So right now in the School Act, DPAC is if parents come to the board and say, we would like to form a DPAC, the board basically has to say yes, right? And so it doesn't lock anybody into doing it, but it gives the board an opportunity to say yes, and it gives the board an opportunity for that conversation. So I'll be bringing that forward as we approach the AGM.
Trustee Thorne, Indigenous Education Committee.
We had our meeting in Vancouver, and we've changed the IEC to British Columbia School Trustee Association's Indigenous Education Advisory Committee. We're now looking at doing more at the direction to do the another Indigenous education series in poster form. So I've been put on the subcommittees for land-based learning, Bill 40, the pros and cons, Indigenous student leaders, local education agreements, the success stories and why some have it, why some don't. We are going to be, I'm also on the planning committee for BCSTA for the 2026 British Columbia, what is it, British Columbia School Council of Canada. So they will be here. We wanted to review some of the questions, talk to the different districts on how well do you know your nation community? Are you involved? So that's going to be part of our 4 call-out questions. We are going to be having more meetings with FNEX because we have more questions and answers on where we're going. We did sign a partnership with them, but it seems like it's a blank page, so we need to fill those in. We've got a lot on the go, so just letting you know that I've been put on by the committee, 5 different committees, so I'm just hoping I can do most of it by Zoom. But it's all good. It's all good. We have had a lot of major issues brought forth. We've set the AGM up so that everybody will participate in all of the Indigenous portions. And there's something I wanted School District 79 to understand. For the last 3 years, there was a time when we had a little room in the evening. But the last AGMs, the last academies have been Indigenous led. And it's through the people that are sitting at this table in our community that says we need to change. So I really want to compliment all of you and our viewing audience that I'm really proud of the direction we're going. And our district is mentioned a lot. And that says something when you got the people who are human here and here. And I think you were just one or the other. It's really cool. I could go on, but I think you got the gist of the report.
Thank you, Trustee Thorne. No correspondence, no new business, question period.
We don't have anybody online, so you could refer to our gallery.
Is there anybody in the gallery that has any questions? Thanks, folks. Seeing none, motion to adjourn. Moved by Trustee Sousa, seconded by Trustee Dillman. All those in favor. Have a good night, everybody.